Hello and welcome to another edition of Another Book Review. This week I'll be reviewing Jean Thompson's short story collection, The Witch. It is the first short story collection that I've reviewed for the channel, so the structure is going to be a little bit different. I will still talk about the author's background, but what I think I'm going to do is go over, just give a brief thumbnail of the short stories that I like the most. I won't give any spoilers to any of them, but probably highlight 2 or 3 of the ones that I enjoyed the most in the collection. It is a relatively short collection. I think I read this in about a day and a half while I was on a business trip. I'll finish the video off by talking about who I'd recommend the work to and then what I'm going to be reviewing for next time. So just to kick things off, Jean Thompson is primarily known for her short story work. She has published 7 novels, but from what I've gathered by doing a little bit of research, she's mostly known for her short story stuff. This book, The Witch, was actually a National Book Award finalist. This is the first of her stuff that I've read. I did enjoy this. I'll kind of just say this now. I did enjoy this. It's a short story collection, like all short story collections. There are some hits and some misses. Tonally, there are shifts depending on the story. So there's some stuff in here that's very, very light-hearted, and there's some stuff in here that's not, I wouldn't say dark necessarily, but there is definitely some stuff more on the serious end of things. The work, The Witch, all the stories are, generally speaking, either reimagining of fairy tales, retelling of fairy tales, folk tales, morality stories, things of that nature. My favorite story in the collection is a modern retelling of the Cinderella story, from the point of view of a young man who was in a car accident and doesn't quite have amnesia, but he has short-term memory problems. And that story felt really heartwarming and really genuine, and was very light-hearted but also very fun. So that's my favorite of the stories. I also like the title story, The Witch, which is about, it's a witch story set in modern day, told from the point of view of a little girl, and you feel the tension of that story generally rise and rise and rise. It comes to a climax, and that also I felt was fairly satisfying. I think it kind of, short story collections, short stories in general, kind of hard to set the beginning and the end sometimes of where they should be. I thought that story did a very good job of pacing and ended right where it was supposed to end. It doesn't really overstay its welcome. So I did enjoy those 2 the most. I think there are 1 or 2 other stories that I did enjoy. One of them is a lighthearted story, a reimagining of kind of the Blackbeard folktale, and another one was more of a morality tale. I couldn't quite find an analog to a story that I knew, but it's basically about a father who is overly protective of his teenage daughter, and you kind of read as the story goes along why that is. And I thought that did just a really good job of kind of examining human psychology and making you feel both sympathetic and angry towards the character, and I think it does that all in a relatively short time span as far as short page count. And so I definitely felt like with that story specifically, the author kind of proved her chops. Like I said, it's very difficult to switch tones throughout the stories, and I think that Jean Thompson really handled that very well. 1 or 2 stories that I didn't care for as much. I don't think that they necessarily because they were poorly written. One of them, but it was just one of them I think I didn't necessarily get the point of, and there was another one where I actually thought it was an interesting short story, but I thought it would have been better integrated into a larger work. And so I don't know if that's not quite a knock on that story, but it would have been interesting to me to have like kept going with that and saw what happened after or before. So that's my review of The Witch. It's like I said before, it's a relatively short read. If you're someone who enjoys retellings of fairy tales, folk tales, things like that, I think you'll enjoy it. As far as the age appropriateness of the novel, I'd say anybody who's a teenager really would be able to read this. I think there's 1 or 2 stories that one specifically deals with teenage sexuality. And so if you're someone who is maybe under the age of 14 or 15, I don't know if that story is going to be age appropriate for you. But if you're someone who's a librarian in a high school and you're wondering whether or not to get this collection, I would definitely check it out and then check that story out. I think the story is called Candy. That one specifically, if there was a story that was going to make it inappropriate for high school kids, I think that would be the one. Everybody else, like I said, I don't think there's anything else in here that's really going to set anybody off. I think that unless you have a really broad definition and have a hard time with children in peril, if that is the case, there may be one or two stories, but I don't think it ever rises beyond like past like Grimm's fairy tales. So if you can handle those, I think you could handle this. So that's The Witch. Overall, I would say check it out. It's a short story collection that is relatively short, and it was nominated for a National Book Award. And you definitely feel reading it that this is not Jean Thompson's first time writing writing a short story collection. So I think it was very well done. Next time I'm going to be reading Dreamland by Sam Quiones, which is, to switch things up completely, about the opioid epidemic in America. Until next time, please feel free to like the video, subscribe to the channel. I will have my Twitter handle in the link below, in the comments below. Till next time, bye.